Every video and episode of the It's Cavalier podcast is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoy the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos, podcasts, member shoutouts, and more. And as always, thank you for watching. Every video and episode of the It's Cavalier podcast is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoy the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos, podcasts, member shoutouts, and more. And as always, thank you for watching. Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. And boy, am I glad to be talking about Cavalier basketball in some form or fashion. But we are not here to talk about the mainstays, are we? We're here to talk about the young, the up and coming, the prospects that the Cavaliers have on this roster and on this Summer League team. It's Summer League basketball. The Cavaliers returned to action today against those dreaded Indiana Pacers, a team that always just seems to give them issues, a proverbial thorn in their sides. And while that would continue today, right? I mean, let's just call it spade a spade. It would continue. One thing that I think we can all admit to ourselves is that winning and losing is not at the top of the line in terms of priority here, right? We're looking for development. We're looking for things that we can take away in terms of how far guys have progressed. And I do think we got some answers today. Despite the Cavaliers taking yet another L against this Pacers team, I was pleasantly surprised with what we saw today, and that starts with a trio of players. Top of the order here is Nae'Qwan Tomlin, right? With the drafting of Tyrese Proctor, most of the eyes and ears were going to be on Tyrese Proctor today to see what he could bring to the table in his first technical NBA level action, right? For me, I was thinking to myself, and I said this prior to watching that game. I said this prior to Summer League action starting. The one player that I was very interested in seeing the most was Norchad Omier, and we'll get to him a little bit later. And I was very, very enthused with what we saw from him. But my money, my money for the top performance of the day goes to Nae'Qwan Tomlin. This guy, man, he looks like he is ready to contribute at an NBA level at the back end of a rotation. Now, listen, it wasn't all pretty. It was not all perfect. And I'm going to bring a guest up here in just a moment to discuss what we saw completely from Nae'Qwan Tomlin and the rest of these guys. But I'll tell you something else, man. This guy was playing like he did not belong in this specific environment. Nae'Qwan Tomlin, and we know, right? After watching him play for the Cleveland Chargers last year, after watching him get the call up from the Cavaliers and get that two-way contract last season, we knew that he could bring something to the table. I like the versatility that he showcased. I like the size, the semblances of ability to shoot. There was a lot that he was bringing to the table that I felt could carry over into the NBA level. And I think this offseason, with all the different things that the Cavaliers have decided to do, whether that be moving on from Isaac Okoro, whether that be going into a new era with Lonzo Ball and bringing back a familiar face with Larry Nance Jr., or going into the season with Lonzo and Craig Porter Jr., who we'll discuss here in just a minute. There are a lot of changes that have occurred on this roster, and it doesn't necessarily feel like it, but a lot of those changes are occurring in the second unit. Nothing really big time, nothing really major in the starting lineup, unless Kenny Atkinson decides that he is going to start DeAndre Hunter heading into next season. But a lot of what the Cavaliers have done this offseason are on the margins. And this summer league squad, they are jam-packed with talented prospects, guys that we hope can eventually contribute in the back end of that rotation. And I don't know, maybe one of the best players of the bunch right now, at least what we have seen through one game of summer league action. Nae'Qwan Tomlin has submitted himself right up there alongside Jaylen Tyson. But I honestly, man, I seriously cannot wait to see what this guy, how he follows that up, because that was an extremely high level performance from him in this first game against Indiana. And again, was not perfect by any means. There were definitely some issues there in terms of fouls. I'm gonna put his stat sheet up here in just a moment as we see. He put up 30 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He doled out 1 steal. It was 12 of 16. Ignore the percentage right there. 75% field goal percentage today. 3 of 7 from 3-point distance. But I think the thing that everybody is going to point out here, especially if you did not watch this game, is the fouls. 8 fouls just does not sound right. That is insane. And this is a summer league environment, so the guys just play on. But dude picked up 6 fouls in the first 2 quarters, which was crazy to say the least. But here to discuss what we saw from this Cleveland Cavaliers team in the first game of the 2025 or 26 rather summer league festivities is my guy, one half of the Chasedown podcast, the official Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, Carter Rodriguez. Let's bring him up and get this graphic off the screen. Carter, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, brother, man. Just
I think I caught Carter off guard there with that one.
I do. No, I just realized it was dark as hell. No, I'm doing good. Happy to watch a little Cavs basketball. And felt nice. Felt like we got some fun stuff. This team might be cursed against the Indiana Pacers. I'll tell you that much.
I had some PTSD. Yeah, I mean, much lower stakes, obviously, but it just every time that this team loses to Indiana now is going to feel like you got.
It didn't feel good. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I did not leave. At the very least, I was happy that the Cavaliers had some positive takeaways today, and I'm sure you already heard me diving into it. But Nae'Qwan Tomlin was right up there at the top of the list for me. There's a number of performances that we'll get to, but I guess we'll start with Nae'Qwan since I got you in here now. I have been a pretty big fan of this guy. I know that he is relatively early in his basketball career, pretty unique journey that he has had in terms of basketball. But what was the biggest thing that stood out to you today from Nae'Qwan Tomlin's performance?
Man, he's just so talented. I mean, you don't make the NBA when you didn't even play high school ball, unless you're really, really talented. But like, you kind of see the vision. He only had 2 assists, but just like the handle in space. Really, really impressive. A couple really nice passes. I think the 3-pointer is going to come and go. But the fact that, he's finishing through contact as well as he is, duck-ins, putbacks, really the full scoring package for him in this game. So yeah, I honestly, it's you. There's a lot of guys in summer league who get duck-in layups. There's a lot of guys who fire away from 3. There's not a lot of bigs in summer league that handle, shoot, and finish the way he was doing all three. And it's not like he played a perfect game. Like, I do feel a little bit of an obligation to be the wet blanket, when because when you see 30 points in basically 20 and 27 minutes, your first instinct is like, this guy's got to make the main roster and maybe he's going to challenge for rotation minutes. Like, there are a lot of soft skills you pick up when you play high school ball and and you have a lifetime of organized ball, like a lot of Nae'Qwan's peers in the league are going to have had. And like, so there is like the in between decision making, the defensive, operating in space defensively, literally just grab it. He had 2 defensive rebounds in 27 minutes, in a game where Indy guys like Enrique Freeman had a really nice game in the offensive glass. So like I feel like you have to pour a little water, but like still he looked like far and away the most talented dude on the floor. And like, I'm not going to undercut that.
Yeah, I look at the performance that I saw from him, and I'm gonna try and do my best not to overreact because it was just one game. And guys, they have a habit of showing out like this during summer league action, and we've seen it from him at the G League level as well. But this just further ingrains into my mind that I think that this guy, whether it be in the latter stages of the 2025-26 season, can be a contributor, depending upon what they decide to do with the likes of Dean Wade, who's on an expiring heading into the following off season. But I just look at what he was able to showcase today, and it makes me feel really, really confident in the future of the front court, because you added Larry. Evan is, sky's the limit for him. Jarrett, I know the future is kind of murky there, but suddenly I'm feeling a lot better about the front court than I did at points last season with Nae'Qwan.
Well, what I'll say with Tomlin, and I felt this way before this game, is that like it is a worthwhile shot. Like, I think at any front office, the best you can ask for your fleet of two-ways is a collective 40 to 50% chance that you might have one NBA rotation player in there, like, because the reality is, these are your 16th, 17th, and 18th men on the roster for a reason, right? So most 16th men are not NBA players that are going to be in the league for 10 years, like that's just math. So like, right. I think they have a really, really good shot where I might say that I would say Tomlin himself, I would say, has a 25 to 30% chance at being a real NBA player based on what I've seen, based on the skill, the size, the touch, etc. And like, if you're a big Nae'Qwan Tomlin fan, you might feel like that is like a hater number, but it's really not. Like, it's really a pretty special thing, especially given the team he's on, which is a contending team that's trying to win every game possible. Like, this dude would be playing, in the early stages of the Colin Sexton era, this guy'd be playing 28 minutes a game for this team. So like, like that is no slight. I think it's just a factor of the team he's on and what they need from their bigs, which is primarily not to mess up. And but a testament to his talent level that I think he might work his way to a full-time roster spot with this team, if not this year, then maybe in the future.
No, I think that's completely fair. I mean, timeline is important, right? You look at where the Cavaliers are, and the 2025-26 season is being viewed as like wide open in the Eastern Conference. So you really can't fuck around and give too many of these young guys an opportunity, maybe 1 to 2. And I think Jaylen Tyson, who we're getting ready to talk about here in a minute, is probably at the top of the order there in terms of who is actually going to be given a shot this season from the stable of young prospects that the Cavaliers do have. But it truly is like you have to wait your turn sometimes. And the Cavaliers, having Evan Mobley, having Jarrett Allen, having Larry Nance, having DeAndre Hunter, who can contribute minutes to the 4, having Dean Wade and a couple of other guys who are versatile enough to contribute at the 4 or 5 spots. That kind of plays a role here. And so Tomlin, whereas Jaylen Tyson may have a little bit of a clearer path towards getting minutes, Nae'Qwan Tomlin may be does not. So I'll be very interested to see what the path is for him. I think personally, just from overall, I think they'll probably opt to take the Craig Porter Jr. approach to the converting of the standard contract. I think they will wait out that 50 game eligibility, and they'll utilize the timing of that to eventually make a decision on whether or not they're going to convert him. And I think they will, but play time is a whole other thing.
Yeah, the only thing that the only factor here, because I've kind of based on absolutely nothing, my guess has been that they, especially now that, having an extra roster spot doesn't really do that much for them.
Yeah.
What I've kind of thought they might do is sign one more veteran that they want to maybe help play if they can get one, but if not, a veteran leader type in the Tristan mold. And then I thought they would probably convert one of the two ways. There's some cap reasons for it, like with second round picks in two ways, you can basically do a cheaper deal, which there's a reason I think Tyrese Proctor got a 4-year deal. And that's a big factor there. And I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those deals be, littered with non-guarantees. That's kind of the Kobe special, is do a 2-3 year deal. Hey, welcome to the show, young man. But we can bail on you whenever we want. That's kind of the way I kind of see them filling that 15th roster spot. And the only reason, because I think Tomlin is definitely ahead of a Luke Travers on the two-way tier list. And who knows what they do with that third one. Certainly doesn't seem like it's going to be our boy Emoni. I think Tomlin's ahead. The only reason maybe they wouldn't do that and do something different with that 15th spot is, let's say they sign a Chris Boucher or something like that. And then it's like, okay, well, we've got Evan Jarrett, Chris Boucher, Larry Nance Jr., Dean Wade. Are they gonna spend that 15th spot on a Tomlin? Who knows? Maybe they will anyway, because at that point, if you're down to your 15th man, it's probably not going the way you want it to go in the postseason anyway. But I don't know. That was my only the only reason why roster constraints might prevent him, even if he's showing that he is ready or has earned it.
I think that makes sense as well. I mean, traditionally, I think what they've done over the last 2-3 seasons is leave that 15th or final roster spot open just in case they need the flexibility for a trade or a buyout candidate. But with where they are right now in terms of second apron and some of the financial restrictions that have been levied upon them, maybe they just say, we'll go ahead and convert this guy. But I do believe that there is a decision to be made on whether or not they're going to use the 14th spot to bring in yet another veteran, whether that be a Chris Boucher or an Amir Coffey, or if Kevin Love gets bought out. I know there's a lot of fans that would probably like to see that happen from a sentimental aspect. But there are some decisions that need to be made in regards to the 14th spot before we can even really get into, I guess, what they decide to do with converting one of these two ways. But I want to shift gears here and talk about the Cavaliers' first round draft pick from last season, and that is Jaylen Tyson, who also performed very, very well in his first summer league action last year. But I felt like heading into the 2024-25 campaign, I really wasn't expecting too much from him in terms of being a regular rotation contributor, and he surprised at that points last season. And there were also points where it felt like he just wasn't quite ready for a regular spot, an every day or an every game spot in that rotation. But purely based upon what you saw from him today, do you think that he has made any progress in any specific area?
So, in terms of the positives, I thought, and curious what you think, that jumper looked a little quicker. Looked like, he kind of has that trebuchet type of release that can be really slow and, takes a minute to load up. It's kind of that high arcing shot. And I felt like he got into the pocket a lot faster. What his version of a pocket, which is like back here. But he got into it a lot quicker. Seemed like a one motion shot. Maybe if it was like a 3 motion shot before, it was like a 1.5 motion shot. I know I'm. It sounds like I'm picking nits because he shot pretty well last year. But I do think that's the kind of stuff that breaks apart under duress. And When do I
The
want you to be able
mechanics
to,
of it all is a little bit
when
more
do I want
fluid
you to
today.
make shots? It's under duress. So I thought that looked really, really nice. Was obviously more encouraged by his first half than his second half, but I felt like we didn't have as many of those like 0 shot turnovers where he's trying to fit the ball into a ridiculously tight window, and just but while still being ambitious. Because I also like maybe on an NBA court you want a little bit more conservative play, but I don't want to play him like a coward. Like part of the interesting thing about him is that he makes some of these pass attempts. So like, you know, dialing that down the recklessness without turning the knob off, I thought was encouraging. Those are the two things I was most encouraged about. I do have some notes, but I would love to hear what you were encouraged about first.
Definitely the facilitation. And for those of you who may not have caught the game or looked at the stat lines, this was Jaylen Tyson versus Indiana today. 20 points, 4 boards, 12 assists, which goes hand in hand with the discussion that we're having right now. 2 steals, block was 8 of 17 from the field, and 3 of 8 from 3-point distance. So that was Jaylen Tyson today from a statistical standpoint. But by all accounts, the one thing that I was looking at how he would or what he would bring to the table today was the added ball handling responsibilities, especially after Craig Porter Jr. left the game. I knew that that would be an opportunity for him to get some live on ball reps against real competition, which is something that I think is within his wheelhouse and something that he's very capable of doing. And frankly, we saw it at points last season and we saw it during Summer League last year. I wanted to see the strides that he made in regard to that specific area heading into this first game. And I thought that there were definitely some quality feats today. I don't think he was nearly as reckless as his first time around, a little bit more controlled. But I don't think it was all rainbows. I don't think it was all beautiful. There were definitely some things that he would probably want to take back. One of the things that really stuck out to me, and maybe this is nitpicking a bit, piggybacking off of you, the final sequence. I thought that he probably could have got them set up a little bit better. They had like 6 or 7 seconds left on
Yeah,
the
it was
clock.
weird. He barely got the ball across half court.
Uh, I wanted to see him try and at least, run a
Sprint
little bit
into
of
a pick
something.
and roll or something.
Yeah, he probably there could have been something done differently during that last sequence rather than pull up on a lower percentage shot.
Yeah,
But
it's like a
those are the types of
35
things.
footer.
Yeah, those are the types of things that I think you learn over time, and this is the environment, I suppose, that if you're going to get that type of thing out of your game, or if it needs to be called out, I think this is a perfect environment to work on it. We already know that Jaylen Tyson can be a serviceable rebounder out of the position that he plays. But I'm going to ask you this, Carter, because I think that prior to the Larry Nance acquisition, and we're still waiting out what they do with that 14th spot, um, there was a lot of question marks in regards to where specifically this young man was going to actually line up. My question for you, my friend, is like, has that changed at all because of what we have gotten with Lonzo and Larry? Do you feel like he is going to be pigeonholed into a specific position, or do you think that he is versatile enough to line up in a number of lineups?
I mean, I think that's the small forwardiest small forward that you ever do see. I don't really think he's a power forward. I don't really think he's a two. Luckily, I think that's where the minutes would come for him if they do play him. What I wanted from the Cavs this offseason, and like I think they've mostly gotten there for me, is to make to put themselves in a spot where if Jaylen Tyson is getting rotation minutes for the team, it's because he took them, not because they had to give them to him by default or because they didn't want to try because they were done with the Okoro experiment or because they weren't sure about Dean. Like, I want him to go out there and earn his minutes, if he's going to be 8th or ninth in the rotation. And like, I do think that's where they are. Right now, my guess is he's not in the rotation to start the year. And I will quickly sneak in a few of my notes from this game in terms of things I
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
love
go ahead.
so much. I'll first start with a controllable, and then I'll move to a non-controllable. So handsy on defense, man. He's just shoving guys. Like I thought he played pretty recklessly on that end and honestly got away with quite a few fouls, even though he had 7 in this game.
Hey, this is the Pacers we're talking about.
I know.
One of the handiest teams in basketball.
I know. But it was like kind of aimless handsiness where he'd like in an attempt to like show activity, he'd like close the gap and just have 2 hands on a guy's chest.
Yeah.
Like what are you doing?
That off-ball foul that he had, that was a little ridiculous.
Yeah. So I think he played a little out of control on that end. I don't think he has insane defensive tools, but I think he's got good enough ones to be, you can be physical and rough, just do it with your body and like in sneakier ways with your hands than 2 hands on the chest as you run up to guys. Like you're gonna get called for fouls. And like I don't want my 9th man putting me in the penalty. And then on the offensive side, we move into a non-controllable, which is the finishing, I think is still really tough. I've worried a lot about his lack of vertical pop as a rim attacker. He kind of needs 2 feet to get up there. He really needs to load up and to finish above the rim. And, we saw it even on a couple of those plays late in the game where like I think Tomlin got a cleanup for him where he just kind of got wiped out in transition because, it's got to be all craft for him. And that's hard. That's hard in the NBA when you have to put an insane amount of touch on every single layup. I felt and still do that his path to being a really good offensive player is the jumper getting really, really good. And then, him being someone who inspires hard closeouts so he can find himself easier angles to attack the hoop and I really trust his ability to like find dump offs and things like that to other guys. But when he's just attacking a set defense, like the finishing is a little rough still. So it's like, I think he kind of needs to find that like signature skill on offense if he's going to be a rotation player for a team that's trying to win the title. Like, and that's again, like it's not fair to the guy that we're asking an unreasonable thing, which is for the 21st overall pick to be a rotation player for a title team. And like, I think he's got some more development to do before we get there. But, you heard Kenny on the broadcast being like, he's been an absolute maniac in the gym all summer. So that makes me feel really, really good that he's like getting coached up and taking the feedback and learning. And I thought he was really, really good in this game. Don't get me wrong. Especially in the first half. I really do love his playmaking. And that's something that we haven't had on the wing from a role player in a minute. I'm just not quite ready to give him the rotation minutes until, again, he goes and takes them.
I can understand that. I think that I'll start with the some of the concerns here, right? I think even heading into that draft, one of the things that was really being said about him is that he lacked that vertical pop, right? He's not a high level vertical athlete. The finishing still could use some work. He doesn't have blow by speed, things of that nature. And those are all things that are going to continuously be flaws in his game that he may never be able to actually address outside of the finishing. I thought the jump shot, and this is the way it looked last summer league too, was very, very efficient. I definitely think the mechanics look a little bit smoother. The fluidity of the shot has been better, and I do think that is something that he can probably climb into the back into the rotation by being a serviceable off-ball shot maker. But the facilitation, as you pointed out, on the wings is evident. It is definitely something that's in his game. He showed it at Cal. And I think really specifically in regard to that skill is something that the Cavaliers could utilize out in the wings. There's still question marks in regards to how the Cavaliers are going to make up for the departure of Ty Jerome, although Ty wasn't viewed in the best light as a facilitator. I think that they're asking a whole hell of a lot out of Craig Porter Jr., out of Lonzo, who hasn't shown to be the healthiest player, obviously, throughout the duration of his career. So I think that is an area that he could add something positive into the equation. But the question is, does he begin the year in the rotation? Now, I know that what's going on with Darius Garland in the injury is that he is very likely to miss the start of the season. So that might play a role here in regards to whether or not he's able to get in. But it's going to be a battle. And it's going to be a real battle on the back end of that rotation to see who's in and who's out, because I think we can all assume, at least on reports right now, is that Lonzo's good to go and he's healthy. Craig and Lonzo are going to be battling it out, I assume. And Lonzo is versatile enough to play in multiple positions. That kind of hurts Tyson's ability to get minutes out on the wing too. But there's all these different positional battles.
If you want Tyson to get minutes, he probably has to take him from Dean, right?
You think so?
Like that's the math I'm seeing, because Kenny's going to want to run 10 guys in the regular season until proven otherwise. And right now the roster is the exact same, except you swapped Lonzo in for Ty and Larry Nance Jr. in for Isaac.
I guess my question in regard to that then is like,
so those two guys that were brought in, I think, are going to be in the rotation. I just do. So then if Jaylen wasn't in the rotation last year, he's got to go get someone's chain, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair way to look at it. But I guess the question I would pose back to you is, are you viewing it as just like, okay, pure minutes are up for grabs? Or do you think like the position of it all plays a role here too? Because Dean played like 60+% of his time at the power forward position last year. Very little time at small forward. Even played, I think, 13% at center. Definitely versatile enough to contribute in multiple spots.
Well, I think what's going to happen is if it's Dean in the rotation, because you're right, it's a small forward out. So you wonder, is Tyson going to get the small forward minutes in? You know, maybe less, but is he going to get those? Like, what I think is more likely to happen is DeAndre Hunter played, I think it was like 74% of his minutes at the power forward.
Yeah.
Yep. After being traded. If that inverts and it's now 74% of his minutes at the 3, and then it's him and Max playing basically 48 minutes of their time at the 3 with a little bit of Sam Merrill in there too. Like, I actually don't think it's that hard to find yourself at 48 minutes of small forward without Jaylen Tyson.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Definitely going to be a positional battle there in regards to some of those names. Max will definitely play a role there. Even Sam probably will too, as much as we know.
Sam's going to be in the rotation. And clearly Sam's going to be in the rotation.
Kenny Atkinson loves him some Sam Merrill. I'm gonna stave off those conversations for now. That deserves an entirely different pod within itself. But I'll shift gears here in another way, and that is discussing the Cavaliers. Second round draft pick that they signed to a multi-year contract. You already mentioned in Tyrese Proctor. What were your first impressions of Proctor today?
It kind of was the scout. Like no surprises for me. Small decent sized 2 guard that can shoot and has kind of a shaky handle. That can be disruptive-ish on defense. And probably needs to grow into his body a little bit.
I'm gonna be nice. Right, because it wasn't a perfect performance. This is a second round pick that we're talking about. And yeah, I don't think it was a terrible game. Obviously, the efficiency probably could have been better, but that's always something, especially for a guard. It's going to be in their first game, going to be a little bit slow going initially. But for Proctor, I think something that was evident to me is the athleticism. The lack of pure blow by speed. I think there were definitely points where Indiana kind of stymied him, at least on the offensive end. And I think that you saw in some of those lineups that they had out there today when they surrendered that lead, it did not look great at points. And I think that the 3-point shot is what saved his performance today overall. And some of the defense, he was opportunistic out there. But I think the lack of athleticism, the lack of pop out there definitely was apparent. It was visible to me. I don't know about you.
I think that he's one of those guys where, like, when I watch him just move in the open floor, I'm like, oh, yeah, he looks like he's got some juice. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where with the ball in his hands, it's like it's almost like a negative badge in 2K, where it's like he just, it like slows him. His speed with ball rating is low. So and I don't know if that's the handle. I don't know if it's if it's physicality. Sometimes that's a strength issue where if a guy's, kind of if you're getting pushed and knocked off your center of gravity, it's hard to get up and go. But like it's clearly not his game right now. I mean, there's a reason that his career at Duke kind of settled in and took off when he became an off-ball player. And I do think it hurt him having Craig go out. Because if he gets to just play two guard the whole way, I think the game looks a little different for him. I think defensively he looked fine. I just think, I do think if you were on Proctor's going to play rotation minutes for us and he's going to help because look at all these things. Look at all you can get really married to archetypes and 6'5", 6'6" sweet shooting guard that used to play point guard. You go, oh man, I could see all this, but it's oh yeah, there's a reason he's a second round prospect. So I think he absolutely. I think if he were on a two-way contract, we would all be pleased as punch with 3 threes and 3 steals and a fine game. I just think it was fine.
Yeah,
and I think he'll be fine.
That is my assessment overall as well. I think that again, harkening back to the scouting report prior to the draft, inability to create separation out there was one of the biggest red flags, or at least flaws that scouts were viewing in his game. And I think that was clear. He's just not a one-on-one ball handler at this point in stage of his career. Much more comfortable off ball as an off ball shot maker, and I think that is what the Cavaliers fell in love with, at least initially. The ability to knock down that triple, and you did it at a high rate at the collegiate level. And I think that is certainly a skill that he showcased today, and I'm very interested to see how that carries on through the rest of Summer League. But yeah, nothing I think that truly stood out on either side, positive or negative. It was just an okay performance overall for his first true NBA
shot. Looked nice.
Action. Yeah. One of the guys here who I've been really, really hype about since he signed to an Exhibit 10 contract is Norchad Omier. Definitely somebody who is obviously undersized, where he played at the college level for Baylor and Miami and a couple of other teams, and even for Cleveland today. Measured at around 6'5.5" without shoes. We all know the old adage with that, they don't play without shoes. But the point that I'm making is he seems a bit undersized at the NBA level, but that did not stop him from making an impact on the glass today and at points defensively. I don't know how much film you watched on Amir at the college level, but zero. Well, at least you got fresh eyes on it. So I'll just ask you this as just a neutral observer then. What were your first impressions today of Amir?
Oh, really liked him. I thought he had sometimes you look at those 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" college bigs, and they kind of make their hay by being bulky, knocking guys around, carving into space. That's kind of a classic guy that then when they go play against a bunch of grown men, they don't have that. But I thought his ball skills were really, really good. A few rim attacks that were really nice where, some step through finishes, some decent touch. Really good on the boards, had nine rebounds in the game. Definitely left the game being because they've had a couple years in a row where there's they find a two-way on their Summer League roster. And I kind of left being if there was a guy who looked like it, I thought it might be Jackson Robinson, who did not have a good game.
No.
Played 14 minutes, missed all 3 of his threes, and got out of the paint. But Omier seems to be the clubhouse leader on that front at the very least right now.
Yeah, I mean, they signed 3. It was Chaney Johnson, Jackson Robinson, Norchad Omier, and I felt that, heading into this cycle that Omier probably had the best chance of the 3 to snag that two-way that's up for grabs, and I left feeling today even more so that that is probably the case, given what and how he was able to impact the game today. And I get, listen, there's going to be size concerns with him, and I think a lot of that is going to be dependent upon where they play him at, because he profiles as your classic tweener at the NBA level. The college measurements, they did him justice, around 6'7", whatnot, 230 pounds, but he looked physical enough out there to truly compete on the offensive glass. He stood his ground defensively, used the rule of verticality at times. I know the fouls were there, but in the summer league environment, I definitely felt that he showed enough promise to get a real solid look at that final two-way spot, at least much more than I did for Chaney Johnson or Jackson Robinson. And I know that, listen, it's not set in stone. Doesn't mean it has to be any one of those 3. The Cavaliers could leave that spot open for the, and wait to see who maybe not on a roster a little closer to the year. But time will tell on that. All I know is to answer Don Thomas's question down here. You guys, Norchad Omier will get a 2-way contract. Yes, I do believe if I was a betting man, I would say that Omier probably does, but I don't know. This just
I
me
don't feel good
speculating.
enough to make a bet just yet, but he had a very nice game, and I was impressed.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm hoping that he does. I'm trying to speak it into existence, but it is just one game, and it's important not to get too caught up in it because we've seen guys have great summer league performances and turn right back around and have shitty ones. It
Yep.
happens. That being the case, one player that I think a lot of people had were really questioning why he was even on the roster in the first place was Craig Porter Jr., who left early today, and I would be remiss if we didn't at least discuss him a bit today. I know he left early, but was there one thing that you were looking for progress in regard to CPJ entering summer league action?
No, I kind of think, the thing about guys like Craig and is that, this guy was a 24-year-old rookie. Um, like, I'm not looking for huge, crazy bursts of new skill that I'm going to be able to perceive at summer league. Like, I don't see, I don't expect him to be like some crazy sniper. It's all the soft in between skills
Right.
that I think, you really want to see, and you kind of only, to me, you can only really see a lot of that stuff in an NBA environment, in a proper environment. So, like, I appreciate him coming out. I mean, I kind of suspect his summer league is over,
Yeah.
because a hammy is not one you generally mess around with. So, kudos to him for coming. But, like, I don't think there's anything he was going to show me positively or negatively, um, in his third summer league that was going to affect where I felt he fit on this roster.
And that is exactly why I entered, like many Cavs fans, just feeling like, why is this man even on the summer league rotation or roster rather in the
Listen,
first
man, if he
place?
wants to hoop, he can hoop. Like, no shade. And I'll say this, it's a bummer that if he doesn't end up playing the rest of the way, because
Mhm.
it's really nice having a grown up out there that has job
Yeah.
security to get into your sets. Doesn't have to show everyone how good he is, because he has a level of security that the other guys don't. Because the worst thing about summer league is the guard play generally.
Oh,
And
Tyrese could have definitely benefited from having
yeah,
Craig out there.
so kudos to him for showing up, being a leader and stuff. I kind of would be surprised if he's back.
Yeah, I truly don't think he will be, and honestly, even if he was healthy, I would have been okay with just one game because, as you said, I really don't think there is anything that left that we can actually take away from a summer league environment in regard to Craig Porter Jr. We have to see some of this progress and some of this development take place on an NBA court, and I
And
think
it's just,
entering this
again,
season.
another hard team to do it on.
Yeah, that definitely is the case. Now, I want to shift gears one final time in regards to these prospects and talk about the 58th overall pick in this year's draft. Saliou Niang. I got to be honest with you, Carter. When they made that pick, I was pissed. Not because of Niang. I don't want to take it away from Niang at all. I was pissed because I'm like, why the hell did you guys not select a big man? Because we didn't have anybody on the roster at that point. There was no Larry Nance Jr. Being signed, and the Cavaliers clearly went another direction with Niang, who profiles as a very athletic wing, and we saw that, especially on the defensive end. He won me over. He won me over today. I'll say that. And again, it's one performance, but first impressions of Niang, who probably won't be over here for 2 years after the summer league.
First impressions, first for Mac Perry get angry about the second to last pick of the NBA draft. I have a standing policy, which is I'm not allowed to feel emotions about picks 50 and onward. That applies to Bronny James. That applies to Emoni Bates. That applies to everyone. If you are that deep in the draft, more power to you. I don't think Niang's ever gonna come over. If I had to guess, I just guys that. And that's no slander. Guys that late in the draft are lotto tickets, and basically they're saying, I think the team's like, one, I don't want to roster two second round picks this year, so we're going to take an international guy and see if he takes a huge leap, kind of in the background. I thought good effort, good athleticism, few really good defensive plays. The jumper looks every bit of a work in progress. The handle looks every bit of a work in progress. I just don't expect to see Niang wearing I expect him to go the road of Khalifa Diop, and I don't expect to ever see either.
Yeah, I don't know why you had to bring that up. Yeah, that still burns me up.
That's why I had to bring it up, because I know you believed, and I did not.
I truly did. And,
I did not.
For Diop specifically, yeah, that was a guy, even at taking where he was, I felt that eventually, because I know that the plan was to stash him, monitor his development and whatnot, but
still averaging a cool 4-4 for Baskonia.
It's not been good from a statistical
it's just
standpoint.
Not fluid enough. It's hard. All right, he's a late second round pick. Fine.
It certainly happens, and I don't discredit rather Kobe Altman and company for any of the second round picks, right? You're going to hit on maybe a few of them. Most of them you're going to miss.
Found Dean Wade and Craig Porter Jr., and that's as good as statistically you can really expect. Two rosterable players that you're happy to play in games that you're trying to win on purpose on your roster that were in that mold. You won. Good job.
Yeah, and Kobe has actually been really, really good at finding some of these undrafted talents and guys that do end up becoming serviceable for short periods of time, and other points they're here for years, like Dean. And I think that
like Tomlin, an undrafted guy, Luke Travers, I think showed a few things here and there. Like these are all auto tickets, man. You're just trying to find someone who can maybe play for you for 10 minutes in a game that you care about.
So in that line of thought, then, before we get out of here, I do have to ask, based upon everything that you have seen from all these guys, and not just today's game, but even I'll include the guys that were here last year as well. Is there an order of who you feel is most NBA ready right now?
I think it's Jaylen. Actually, no, it's Craig, but I think it's Craig actually by a mile right now. I've seen that guy help win us games that we were
Denver and Philly games come to mind for me.
That we were trying to win. I think Craig's biggest challenge is that we have a bunch of really small guards who want to dribble the ball a lot, and it's like I think it's a really tough bet. I think like if they're if he played for like Brooklyn, people would be like, there would be a contingent of Nets fans being like, we got to start Craig. Like, I really do think he is a very, I don't think he's a starting NBA player, but I think he is a rotation player on like a mid to lower tier team, or even like a change of pace spark plug for like, he could be what Rob Dillingham was for many last year.
Yeah.
And do a really good job. I just think it's a tough fit for him here. Because like, if he's going to get minutes, then you're going to play two of him next to Darius or Donovan, and you're just little all the time. So like I think it's tough for him. So I think Craig is the most NBA ready of the group, but I think in terms of if I had to rank likelihood of making the rotation, it's Jaylen, Tyrese, Craig. Like
That feels a little
it's Jaylen.
disrespectful. So many
I just think it's
Jaylens.
Jaylen. I just think it's Jaylen because he's their highest pedigree prospect that they want. He fits
That's
the
fair.
position the position group that they want the most they need the most help in. It's not disrespectful. It's a reflection of status within the org, and we know that matters in the league.
That's true. Yeah, I too would probably echo the same sentiment. I think that it's going to be dependent upon how and what positions that and types of lineup combinations that Kenny wants to cook up, right? And I think that Darius being out initially is going to help some of these guys that are on the fringes, i.e., Craig, Jaylen for sure. But when everybody at least in a theoretical sense, if you have Darius and everybody else, Lonzo, all of them come in with a clean bill of health, that's when things get really, really interesting in the back end of that rotation. Now, I lied. I do have one final question for you. I would feel terrible if I didn't at least get your opinion about this. The Lonzo and Larry additions, I know we're all very, very excited about the possibilities of what they can do on the basketball court, provided they can stay healthy. Do you feel as if those two moves were enough of a needle mover to feel confident heading into this upcoming season to advance further than they did last year?
I think I think the roster is about net neutral right now from a talent perspective. I think people are very much quicker than I am to move on from how important Ty Jerome was to this team last year. I think he's a very loud reason for why they won 64 games and just had two absolutely atrocious nightmare games that you know, listen, you got to take your lumps for
Are you
having.
ready to say your final goodbyes to Ty Jerome, or
Yeah,
have you
yeah,
already done that?
yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like you gotta hold those L's when they happen, but like that doesn't wipe out that he was really important for this team. So I
Oh, for
think
sure.
net neutral in terms of the talent of the roster. But they are different in ways that I find interesting. As the captain of the uh, "Give Evan Mobley the effing ball" fan club, you, I would be a hypocrite not to like these moves because both Larry and Lonzo are due to get off the ball. They are not pound the rock. They are not. I'm going to see what I can get for me under duress. They're going to find the talented players on the roster and say, "You do it." And like that has trade-offs. There are things that we won't like about that too, by the way, because there were a lot of games where Cavs were playing a listless February game and Ty dug his elbow into someone's chest on the way to the hoop and put up a floater and scored 8 points in 5 minutes, and we loved it. They won't have that this year. So there are trade-offs, but I do think I asked the front office to make a team that feels different than what they had last year without sacrificing a lot of talent. And they have done that. Now it's just a matter of, did they bet on the right guys?
That might be one of the most sensible statements in regards to
Oh,
this all
thanks.
season that I have heard. No, I mean, it's logical, right? Because we cannot undersell what Ty Jerome meant to this Cleveland Cavaliers team last year. I know he flamed out during the course of that Indiana Pacers series. He had a really good Miami Heat series, by the way. I'm not taking that away from him. I know the level of opponent is completely different from Indiana juxtaposed to Miami, but that's still playoff basketball. It was his first postseason appearance after all, and I do wish him the very best with his new digs. But that's a big loss. No matter how people want to position themselves on how Ty Jerome's playoff performances went overall, I think that you cannot understate how important he was, especially to that second unit and the scoring opportunities that he afforded you. You are now going to have to figure out a way to make up for that. And I think a lot of people feel like DeAndre Hunter is probably going to have to pick up a lot of the slack in that regard as one of your better on ball offensive talents. So we'll have to see what Kenny Atkinson decides to do in regards to the starting lineup, and if that affects DeAndre's availability in that regard. But I do think that in terms of balancing, the Cavaliers are a much more balanced team, especially on the defensive end. I think in terms of sheer versatility and lineup flexibility, I think the additions of Lonzo and Larry definitely help, because these are two players that are positionally versatile, two guys that can defend multiple positions. Lonzo, he does not move around the same way that he once did. But he still is a very, very good perimeter isolation defender, still pretty tough to deal with in terms of being a pickpocket and a passing lane demon out there. And Larry,
despite what I like, bro, is that both these dudes, if they catch the ball in space, aren't going to short circuit. Like, they're going to do something.
They're connective tissues in the same line of way that Max Strus is.
Like, Larry is not like some mid-range demon, but you know what he's going to do if he catches the ball in the short roll? He's either going to take a dribble and try to get to a floater or a flush. He had like 40 more dunks than Dean Wade did last year, despite playing like 20 games. So he's either going to get to the rim and flush, or if he doesn't have that kind of runway to attack, he's going to immediately dribble into a dribble handoff, find someone back cutting. He's just going to go. You don't have that short circuit that lets the defense catch up. And that's what Dean and Isaac offered a lot of to Indy when they were on the floor. And I would like to see no more of those things.
I know we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier on offline, but are you worried at all about Lonzo's ability to function as the lead guard off the bench?
A little bit. He's not he does not get inside the 3-point arc anymore on offense. I watched every assist of his 2024-25 season, and I watched almost every bucket he had in the 24.
Carter's dipping into the film over here.
Well, luckily he didn't play that much, so it's not hard to find.
Yeah, that helps.
It's not hard to find the highlight clips. It's 2 15-minute clips, and most of them are, the passes are hit aheads, they're dribble handoffs, they're hitting guys coming off of curls or back cutting or transition. Like, there's not. I'll bet he had less than 10 drive and kick assists last year. So like they're going to have to find that downhill energy elsewhere on the roster. I generally believe in the jumper being in good shape. I know the wrist injury kind of nuked those percentages a little bit, and just getting your legs under you after 2 years off. So I think he'll be okay. But like, I would pair him with Donovan a lot if it were up to me.
I think that's fair. And to your credit here, you're kind of right on the money in terms of the drive and kick stuff. NBA.com tracking has him at 84 total drives across 35 appearances last season and 11 assists. The drive.
Wow, I was almost spot on.
Yeah, so take a shot for that one. 13.1% assist percentage, 8 turnovers. So 11 assists to 8 turnovers. Not necessarily
great.
Doesn't
do it. It's not his game. He's like, when he runs pick and roll, he kind of just fades to the side. He doesn't run pick and roll with the intent of, snaking around the screener's hip and getting 2 feet into the paint. So like someone like him and Ben Simmons are kind of similar playmakers at this point in their career. They're not 2 feet in the paint players. They use their height. They're very, very good touch as passers and very good basketball IQ to pass guys open that otherwise aren't, and hit guys in the pocket in ways that they're comfortable and stuff like that. But like, they're not gonna create an advantage where there isn't one that often.
Yeah, I think the biggest area in terms of facilitation that he will probably add is turning defense into offense. Definitely a guy that is going to probably spark a lot of transition offense for the Cavaliers. It's definitely
event defender, I like to call them.
That's a good one right there. I like that distinction. Well, I appreciate you for joining me on such short notice. I know it's just
Thanks,
one
man.
game of summer league action, man. But tell the people where they can listen to you, as if they don't already know.
They might not know. You have quite the lovely audience. Chasedown Pod on any of your podcast platforms, and the Cleveland Cavaliers YouTube channel for our live stream podcasts.
All righty. As always, tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you would like to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to itscavalier53@gmail.com. If you want to support the pod in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. You can also do so on YouTube if you like. You can do so for as little as $1. That will get you early access to content. It will get you the Discord chat invite as well. And I'm trying to tweak a little bit of things and add some personal touches on there, some content you may not see on other platforms that I have up. And just stay tuned on that. Go Cavs.